What up? Welcome back. It is Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and take a look at a custom I've been working on for a couple of months. Now, as always, when I started this project, I didn't really have a plan as such, as I just went with whatever, you know, wherever it took me. Now, I did buy the base figure for this, which was a DC Direct Bane from Arkham Asylum, I guess. But I found it for $10, but it was missing one of the legs, or more correctly, one of the lower foot parts, and it was missing the back, the back apparatus that it has on his back that had all the tubes coming out of it. So for $10, free shipping, that's what I paid for first. That I didn't really know what I was gonna do with it, but I just couldn't pass up on a big Bane figure for $10. I figured that I'd figure out something to do with it, so I started thinking of legs that I could use, and because I had to replace the lower part of the legs because of course he was missing one, and also I wasn't too big on the barefoot look for Bane, so I wanted to get him some boots. I started thinking about larger figures that had some, sort of military style boots that I could get for him. And then it just clicked in my brain. I was able to get the legs from the Bane for the Last Night on Earth. I think they cost me $15 for both of them. And then once I ordered those, then I had a more or less a plan of what I wanted to do. Now, what I wanted to do was kind of go more for a traditional Bane look where he had the eyes covered and the mouth covered, and then a more black scheme to his outfit, and then of course add his boots to the lower body. Another thing I had to put up with was he was missing the tubes, that the ones that run from his back to the back of his head, and then the ones that are up here on his gauntlet were like really brittle and falling apart, and they were brown. So I do have the remnants of that of that other figure, which is one of the feet left from Bane. And then of course from the Bane boots I had to take off those like guards that he has, because I wanted more just like the shoelace look instead of the guards on there, especially to separate it from that Bane from the Last Night on Earth. I wanted this one to be like its own thing. So once I was able to do that, I had to fashion the feet to the lower part of the legs to hook into the existing legs, and that was by removing the pin and then cutting the plastic so that it would match together, and then putting the pin back in. Really kind of a large task, but I was able to accomplish it. And then of course I had to replace the hoses with a more like green looking tubing, and then add paint that where I wanted it to look more like he had the lower shirt that he usually wears, which is black. Some other things, we'll take a look at it. Once we take a look at them, I'll start explaining more of the details of what I did, but this is basically my finished product. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. Now, of course, in the comics, Bane has a bunch of iterations of how he looks. It could be like a big monster type of guy, or like a more sleeker, intelligent opponent for Batman. So there's so many of them that you could just pick the style you want to go for. Now, like I said, I wanted to keep them big, but I just wanted them to have boots instead of the shoeless version. But he does still retain a lot of articulation, and I did add a lot of cool details. Taking a look at him, I made the inner part of the harness where he was like where he didn't have a shirt. I painted that black, several layers, to go ahead and try and cover up some of the like muscle definition and stuff, and it actually came out pretty good. It blends in nicely. Of course I did fill in the eyes and the mouth of the holes that were there from the way the figure had it originally. and then painted it all white and then red to give him that more classic Bane look. I hadn't been using the sculpting putty that much, but I kind of got it close. I mean, if I could do it again, I'd probably do a nicer job, but it looks pretty good. I think the hardest part was to get the boots on here and then have them match up and still keep, some kind of articulation in them. You got a slight bend at the knees. Added a little bit of silver to the paint detail on the boots. And like I said, I filled in the laces, which were actually like gaping holes. Once you pop out those guards, there are gaping holes in there, and I had to fill them with putty and then actually sculpt the laces that were missing. So that came out pretty good. Gave me some experience in sculpting that part of a figure. I added some more silver and of course painted him more of a black scheme than he had before. It really came out nice. I'm really digging him. I'm going to be happy to have him on the shelf. Now on this right-handed gauntlet, I had to remove the tubes because they were really bad, but I did drill holes in to where the ports are on this side, and then I actually slipped in the tubing, and then it goes here into the top of his hand. Now it is glued, but he still has articulation in his hand, and the tubings move with it, so that came out pretty awesome. Now let's talk about the back, because the back was another like harder part of the project, because he had a gaping hole here on the back where that harness was missing, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. But in the end, I actually took the foot that I did have. He had like a kind of like a band around his foot, and I cut that off and then I flattened it, and it actually had like a porthole in there. And that's where what I used after I put putty and then sculpted out the muscles that were missing. I actually used that piece as like a port for the thing that the connection that goes into his head. Now this silver part here, I actually had to like flatten this and then add that silver part so that it wouldn't, so just to give it like a little bit of extension, like of a port, and then it goes up. And then I actually had to build this like splitter that splits the one tube into two that go into the existing holes in his head. So all of that was a lot of custom work that I had to do, but he still has articulation in his head, even though originally it is limited, the articulation, but he still has, as much as he had before with the tubes in, because they also move. When you move the head, they move with the movement, so that worked out pretty well. I did have to decide if I wanted to show this like metal part in his back with the black, but I did. It just, an artistic choice, but filled in nicely, and it just gives him a different feel altogether with the black paint and the boots. It just gives off a whole different feel compared to the Arkham Asylum Bane that I had to start with. So tons of little detail, like adding a little bit of green to the veins, some on the neck, and then coloring red all the old portholes that weren't going to be used anymore. Even the ones on the boots I painted red. And of course on his belt, did a little bit of work there, but really happy with him. I mean, for something that I had no idea where I was going with it, he came out pretty nice. Let's go ahead and compare him to some other figures. First of all, my baby boy King Shark, and he's big, but Shark is just a little bit bigger than him. That's a big boy. And then let's take a look at him next to my custom repaint of the Last Night on Earth Master Blaster setup with the Scarecrow, where he's riding on his back. Now these are more about the same size. And then let's take a look at them compared to some of my Banes that I have up here. First of all, the DC Universe Classics Collect-A-Build Bane. Pretty much stockier than that one. And then my Nightfall Bane that I recently picked up. And he's a little bit thicker than that one. So all in all, he's a cool addition to add to my Bane collection. And he is one of a kind custom built that I built myself, and he's gonna look pretty awesome there in my Bane collection. So you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.